Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you.
For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just go to getcopperhead.com. That's getcopperhead.com for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Getcopperhead.com.
Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
The Bone King. The Bone King. He watches over everything.
Check out The Trouble with Tessa, starting July 15th, only on Screambox.
You have to control yourself!
And welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking, it's all very melodramatic. We're talking oxblood and anemia. And we're talking, you mentioned wanting to rape him. And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking, you don't mind if I examine you as if you were my horse?
Okay, I do love that line, though.
There's honestly some really cheeky dialogue in this that I quite appreciate. But yes, everyone, we are discussing Jean Rollin's... I said that right?
I think so.
Yeah, sure. Jean Rollin's 1979 film, Fascination.
I love it because most people, if they don't really know something, there's a kind of rising inflection, like a question mark at the end of it. And yours just like, no, I'm going to say it louder, but more confident. Yeah. Jean Rollin.
If you say it really confident, people won't question you.
I mean, this is a trick that we white men have picked up. Yes.
Absolutely. But, yeah, everyone, lesbian vampire film. From 19... It's been a while since we've covered a lesbian vampire film.
This is true. Okay, so originally, just before we hit record, I said, I've got a couple of games, and we decided where we were going to play them, but now you have cued me, so I have to say, Trace, would you like to play a game?
Yes!
I want to play a game. The rules are simple. All you have to do is sit here and talk to me.
Okay, so the name of the game is tell me as many lesbian vampire films that we have covered as you can.
Okay, I know there is Daughters of Darkness, The Vampire Lovers. Mm-hmm.
There are 2 more, what I'm calling undeniable ones, and then a couple of ones that we can quibble about.
Fuck. Dracula's Daughter?
Mm-hmm. One more from the 80s.
The 80s. Oh, The Hunger.
Yes.
That should have been like the first... That should have been my first answer.
No, it's funny because I immediately did the exact same thing you did where I went period hammers. I was like, yeah, I went to all the gothic ones and then I remembered the black and white one. And then I was like, all right, Susan Sarandon. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Do you want to take a stab at some questionable ones or would you rather I just tell you?
Oh my God, it's the 7th something. Is that one of them?
The 7th Victim.
Yes.
I would say no, if only because it's actually a bit more like this movie where it's secretly about cults and maybe some devil worshipping.
Okay, then give me the others then that are lesbian vampire adjacent.
Yeah, so I said the reason that these are questionable is because you could consider them like more cannibal films or something else, but I put down All Cheerleaders Die.
Oh, I happily forgot that one. So, God, fuck you for bringing that back to my memory.
Fair. The Neon Demon.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, it's not quite right, but it's sort of just off to the side, right? Mm-hmm. And then the last one is Grace, where the vampire in question is not a lesbian, but we do have lesbian parents.
Yes. Good movie. Much better than All Cheerleaders Die.
Well, yes. Yeah.
Low bar, but still.
Mm-hmm.
Well... Okay, I mean, you know what, Joe, honestly, I want to jump right into the production here because
Sure.
I proudly and confidently announced last week in our epilogue that I had not heard of this film and I had not heard of Jean Rollin.
Yes, this was all new territory for you.
So yes, I have to thank Powerhouse Films and their Indicator series Blu-rays because I bought the Blu-ray for this movie and boy, I learned a lot.
Okay, this is exciting. Tell me everything.
So we're basically going to start with a quick primer on Rollin because honestly, I think when you know more about his career and where this movie falls in it, it kind of puts a lot more of it into context. So
yeah, because I imagine most people are in your shoes where they've either never heard of him or they have heard of him tangentially from a list or something. But yeah, having a background, I think, on his oeuvre would help people to put this film into context.
Well, and I have to admit that whenever someone says, well, like he's really well known for blah, 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 and I kind of always feel guilty. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm like a horror film person. I should know these things. And
oh, there's so much to know, though.
But when I learned about his filmography, I was like, oh, okay, I don't feel that bad anymore. I don't feel guilty.
You mean you don't know semi-pornographic French films from the 70s?
I do
That's
not.
It's not your forte?
It is not. So the bulk of this is coming from the premiere episode in 1999's Erotica, a Channel 4 documentary film that covered European exploitation cinema. And
hello.
Yeah, basically before the introduction of home video. So Channel 4 is the UK-based, publicly owned, but commercially funded, free-to-air public broadcast television channel.
This should all sound familiar to you because they operate on the exact same system that Canada does.
Well, because I was like, oh, it's like the European PBS, but the difference is that PBS is not commercially funded. Channel 4 is.
There you go.
I've also pulled from a brief featurette on this Blu-ray featuring critic Virginie Salavi and the commentary on the film from film critic and author Jeremy Rishi.
Okay.
So according to this documentary, Rollin is continental cinema's foremost horror specialist. And since 1968, he's directed more than 40 low-budget movies.
Okay.
Many of them featuring his trademarks of near-naked female vampires and surreal storylines.
Check and Jack.
Yeah, exactly. Though he was largely ignored, though, in his native France, which, I mean, that just really calls to mind the whole, like, French extremity movement.
Well, remember, they hate
horror
genre
films.
film.
Yeah, exactly. But he did manage to find an audience of fans across the world who revered his uniquely strange films, we're going to say. And his films, they can be described like collages, with his main influences being comic books, surrealist paintings, long-cherished childhood memories, and also his own dreams.
Okay, he's giving slight Dario Argento vibes with that description.
Yeah, and the dream stuff I think is why also like a lot of his films, I mean, there's a plot, but they're not really narratively driven, I would say.
No, folks, Trace and I were joking offline that this is an 80-minute film, but it does sometimes feel quite a bit longer, if only because if you are fixated on the narrative or even character arcs, this may not be your jam. It's very slow. It's a little bit moody. It's a vibe, as the kids used to say and probably no longer do, but yeah. We're doing a lot of kind of dreamy shit that doesn't always feel like we're stepping through things.
Yeah, it feels like slow.
Yeah, it's a bit slow. It's a bit artsy slow.
Yes. His first movie was the low-budget black and white film Le Viol du Vampire, which is The Rape of the Vampire.
Okay.
This opened in Paris in May of 1968, which the documentary points out as very significant, the time of release, because this was the same time as what would be called May 68. And have you ever heard of this?
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I think I will need more information.
Okay, so this was a period of widespread protests, strikes, and civil unrest in France that became one of the most significant social uprisings in modern European history.
Okay, I mean, the French do love them a protest.
Yes, and initially sparked by student demonstrations against university conditions and government repression, the movement quickly escalated into a nationwide general strike involving millions of workers, bringing the country to the brink of revolution.
Shit, I mean, they also do love a revolution.
Very much. I feel like we've discussed something about French. Actually, you know what? It was Inside when we were talking about all the riots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the events have profoundly shaped French politics, labor relations, and cultural life, leaving a lasting legacy of radical thought and activism.
Yeah, checks out.
So, obviously, films like the ones Rollin were making, which were essentially softcore porn sex films, were a part of this rebellion.
Okay.
Now, by the mid-1970s, Rollin had established a style that was all his own, which was essentially strange, dreamy tales shot through with almost surreal imagery and a sprinkling of sex to attract a sensation-seeking audience.
Yeah, I would say that's appropriate for the film we're discussing.
AKA sex sells.
Well, that's something we all knew.
But the thing is, though, his films were neither conventional horror movies nor conventional sex movies, and they had the goal of creating an atmospheric mystery, a feeling that something magical and strange is about to occur, but doesn't necessarily happen.
Yeah, this movie does edge you, so that also checks out.
Now, there is one motif that occurs in nearly all of his films, and that is the image of two young girls.
Okay.
Now, by young girls, I mean like 19-year-old girls, not like
right.
girls.
Yeah. Young women of age and hopefully willing to give consent.
Well, I will say, almost every actress that has worked with him has like wonderful things to say about him.
Okay, that's good to know.
So, this image has appeared in all of his films since his second film, La Vampire Nue, or The Nude Vampire, in 1970. And the two girls originally began appearing as vampire servants, and then they kind of morphed across films into vampires themselves. Not the same girls, by the way, just two girls.
Yeah, it's just a recurring character trait.
Exactly. And Rollin even said that even when he would try to write a story with just one girl, like a second girl would always unconsciously come up in his writing.
Okay, I have thoughts about this.
Well, yeah, so we'll get into it. But here's the thing. So culturally, by the mid-1970s, hardcore sex films had been legalized in America and many European countries, which had a devastating effect on the kind of low-budget films that Rollin had been making.
Right, because even though sex sells, it's hard to compete with bigger budgets and something that is more widespread.
It's not even that. It's suddenly it was no longer possible to attract audiences with the suggestion of a little softcore fumbling. They wanted the real thing, uncut, and now they could get it. Also, a lot of cinemas that had previously shown like just horror movies, they were now showing porno-only movies.
Okay. Wow. What a completely different fucking time.
Right? And so, but the thing is, though, a lot of these filmmakers, so these horror filmmakers, went over into porn for this very reason, because that's where the money was.
Sure. Yeah.
But the thing is, porn wasn't really Rollin. He found hardcore films uninteresting. He eventually did move into making more explicit films out of financial necessity, which, I mean, you know, we can compare that to, like, on the American side to Wes Craven. Although he got his start in porn, he didn't move over to porn.
Right, yeah.
But when he got around to making Fascination in 1979, you could see that he wanted to make a quote-unquote real film again. And
yeah.
The idea for the film came to him when he had one image in his mind. Again, one of two girls, but this time they were dancing on a bridge with an old phonograph, which is the opening, like, well, not the opening shot, but it's the opening credit sequence of the film.
Yeah.
The story, though, okay, this is interesting. So it's loosely based on openly gay French writer Jean Rollin's short story The Glass of Blood, which was written in 1895 as part of the collection Sensation. However, if you want to find it in English and you're really curious about it, it's in the collection Nightmares of an Ether Drinker.
Oh, no. That first title is way better.
Yeah, well, it's in French. If you know French, go read it.
Okay.
But I say loosely based because the only real holdover from the story is the opening scene with all of the women drinking oxblood in the slaughterhouse, which I learned today is also called an abattoir.
Okay, yeah.
I've always knew the word abattoir, but I never knew what it actually was. So.
Right. You're like, heard it tossed around, can't define it if my life depended on it.
Never thought I'd have to use it in a sentence, and now I have, so there you go.
And saying it out loud. Folks, I know that I frequently mispronounce shit all the time. I like to think it's part of my trademark, enjoyable to listen to qualities. But, like, sometimes it's really fucking hard to say certain words out loud because you've only ever read them.
Oh, I'm so happy that you're in Canada because literally, with the French stuff, I have no point of reference for any pronunciation, any of the accent marks, and same for you in Spanish with me.
Identical, yeah.
Yeah. But the story in this short story itself is about the passionate bond between a woman and a young girl who becomes her stepdaughter, which, unsurprisingly, although maybe surprisingly because it's 1895, has a lesbian theme to it.
Oh, and incest then. Oh, well, stepdaughter. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so it's a Cruel Intentions incest. So it's not really incest, but it's incest.
Or Clueless, yeah.
Yeah, legal incest.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone come up with it. Maybe there's a name for it. But anyway, so that's really all that carried over from Fascination. It was the lesbian themes, and it was that opening scene in the slaughterhouse.
Got it.
So Fascination was shot over the course of 2 weeks in a chateau near Paris on a very, very low budget. But
you don't say.
Okay, they keep saying, like, but you wouldn't necessarily, and maybe it's because they're comparing it to his other films, which look way more low budget than this.
Right.
But they talk about how the costumes go a long way into giving this not necessarily the same low budget quality or feel as his other films.
Okay, yeah. Here, let me eat my own foot, because when you don't say, it's more just like there isn't a huge amount of setups, right? It's almost single location. There's only a handful of actors. Like there isn't a huge amount of gore or FX work or anything like that.
Right.
But like, no, this movie looks beautiful.
For sure. And you're right. They're filming in just this one location, which again was on location. They had the chateau. So that's what they used.
There we go.
Fascination, though, reunited Rollin with Brigitte Lahaye, one of his stars of his previous film, the 1978 zombie film, The Grapes of Death. And she would go on to star in many of his films, but she's kind of like French acting royalty in the sense that she actually was really in the adult film industry. So she was in all of these hardcore films and started transitioning over into something like this. And then, like, I think at some point she got her own talk show. Like she really...
She made a career of it.
She made a career out of it, but also never felt shame about it and always was very, like, upfront about it and, like, really honest and, like, just really embraced her history as a hardcore porn actress from the 70s.
Oh, interesting. And folks, if you were wondering which character she plays, this would be Eva.
Correct. But the funny thing is, though, the producers wanted Rollin to change LaHaye's name in the credits to a different name because they didn't want such an obvious connection to the adult film industry. But Rollin told them to get lost.
Good. Stand up for your actors.
Yeah. Despite the low budget, Rollin thought the film marked a change in his writing in that it was, well, good.
Okay.
Even thematically, though, Fascination offers a new variation on the vampire theme, and that the women are not literally vampires, which I think you hinted at earlier. But these are just women that drink blood. Like they're not.
They are.
Like which I did not know walking into this movie. No. I kept waiting for a vampire reveal that we never got.
No. And folks, you don't really find this out until near the end of the movie. But yeah, I'd always seen this described as a lesbian vampire film in the vein of the other films that he makes, because this is what he's known for. So I just went into this movie assuming lesbian vampires.
Yeah, so instead of literal vampires, they're just literal blood drinkers, with blood drinking being intimately connected with erotic desire. Because if this movie has one thing going for it, it is eroticism.
Yes, yeah. And here's the thing, right? If you told someone, oh, blood drinking, eroticism, it feels like we're having a conversation that's in tandem to the kind of thing that we would talk about if we were talking about a lesbian vampire film.
Absolutely. And then tying back to those May 68 protests, the film subverts conventions, which, again, it's not something I really picked up on when I was watching it, because I guess it's the time difference, but like traditional roles of domination and subservience are fully reversed on a number of levels. You have male-female roles being reversed, you have master-servant roles being reversed, victim-perpetrator being reversed, and criminal and bourgeois being reversed.
Yeah.
So, and of course, it's the blood drinking itself that disrupts the established order.
Sure.
Now, as for this film's release, so it had a planned wide release, much bigger than any release of Rollin's previous films, by the powerful UGC distribution company, which had, I love this is the widest release, 20 theaters in France.
Oh, wow. That is tiny. So it makes me think that he probably was only playing in 1 or 2 theaters.
Well, so while this would have made Fascination the best distributed and most widely seen film that Rollin had ever released in his home country, you know, they had the publicity material prepared, 12 release prints were struck, which itself was a costly move.
Okay.
8 days before opening, one of the directors of UGC, who had an old score to settle with one of the producer's representatives on the film, decided to get his revenge by canceling all the bookings.
No. Oh, that's so petty.
And so they'd already marketed the fuck out of it. So overnight, it seemed Fascination went from being a film that everyone was going to see to a film that no one could see, even if they wanted to.
Oh, okay. Wait, though. Does that turn it into some kind of cult property because people are so excited, but then they can't see it, so then they're desperate to seek it out in some other form?
I guess. I mean, so eventually a friend of Rollin's pulled some strings to get the film released in a handful of theaters, but by then it was already too late. The marketing campaign had been done. I mean, this is probably months later, so no one knew it was playing, and if they had remembered, if they had wanted to go see it earlier, they'd forgotten by this point.
Oh, that's so unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, it was one of Rollin's first films to receive favorable reviews because all of his films before this had pretty much gotten dismal reviews because, I mean, again, they're low-budget genre films in France that are they don't like these kind of films.
Right.
But it marked a positive turning point in his own relationship with the press. The only real complaint from many people was that the editing wasn't very good, with some people involved even saying it could have been, quote-unquote, more graceful.
Okay. I don't myself personally agree with that statement. I think that there's a kind of lackadaisical approach to the editing, like, especially from a contemporary perspective, right? Like, we watch this and we say, oh, these scenes are just definitely playing a little too long. Like, you could do with a tighter edit, but I don't think there's any transitions where I said, what the fuck happened in the edit there?
Maybe it was a translation type thing. Like, maybe it's more so like it could have been tighter.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, Joe, like there are two, not deleted scenes, but extended scenes on this Blu-ray, and they are both sex scenes. One between Eva and Mark, and the other between Eva and the thief in the barn.
Right.
They are 8 minutes long apiece.
Oh my God. I mean, that is a carryover from your porn days. Nobody needs an 8-minute sex scene unless you're watching In and Out.
To the point where I was like, okay, cool. At least we're going to get to see some dick. And no, we don't.
Trace, you're talking about a straight male director. Of course not.
Yeah, but it's a French straight male director. So it's like, I don't you do get to see some of Mark's scrotum in his scene, but like it's at the very end and you have to kind of squint.
It's going to be no for me. I'm fine.
Yeah. There are only 2 reviews for this movie on Rotten Tomatoes, though.
Ooh, coming in. Oh, look at you and I. We're going to fucking double this up.
Yep. Add 2 more reviews. Both of them are positive, though. And Letterboxd users have given this a 3.4 out of 5 or a 6.8 out of 10.
I'm not going to lie. That's a little bit more than I was expecting. I'm coming in firmly at like a 2.5 to a 3.
I think I'm more confidently in a 3. I did watch this. I watched the movie twice, so like, I had more time to like absorb it, I think. But it's also like this guy does kind of have his followers. I mean, I'm comfortable saying this is niche.
Sure.
And I think that people that just really are like this guy's filmography, this is, as you said last week, this is kind of his most famous and well-regarded one.
Right. And folks, I feel like we're bearing the lead here. Like, there's definitely lesbianism. The women are stunningly gorgeous. This location is very opulent and rich looking. And this movie is not hard to watch in terms of a visual experience, and it's also on Shudder, so if you have not watched it, you can very readily access it.
Yeah, I mean, what do I always say in these types of films? It's a vibe.
It's very much a vibe. It's mood, yeah, but like, I don't know. I mean, if you are a person who admires the female form, this is a movie worth checking out. And I find it kind of ironic, Trace. We didn't mean to do weird programming this month, but like, I messaged you a joke that we have unintentionally programmed 4 movies within the space of a decade. So like, this is our second film that comes out in the 70s. We started with Jaws last week and now we're doing this. And then the next movie we do comes out in 82. And then the second last film we're covering in July comes out in 85. But also this movie drops the same week that we're releasing our Patreon audio commentary on Species. So apparently this week the theme is tits out.
Very much. There are tits all over this movie. And that's it.
That's great. Yeah. So if you like tits, this is a great week for you on Horror Queers.
100%.
Okay. Well, before I kick off the plot, shall we play another game?
Yes.
I want to play a game. The rules are simple. All you have to do is sit here and talk to me.
Okay, so here's the thing. You got a head start because you referenced one of the 2 trailers I'm going to ask you about. So on the UK version of the disc, there's an Easter egg under the documentaries menu. And if you click on the grapes, you can watch the trailer for Les Raisins de la Mort. So you already know what the English language title of this is because you referenced it.
Right.
But Trace, do you know what the movie is about? I would love for you to give me a plot synopsis.
I know it's a zombie movie, I think, and that's all I know. But are there actual grapes involved?
There are actual grapes involved.
Okay, so I'm gonna assume it's a period piece. No, okay.
I couldn't tell from the trailer itself.
Okay. It probably is about a bunch of women who work in a winery and the grapes go bad and turn people into zombies.
Okay, yeah, you nearly got it. So yeah, this 1978 film, so made the year before Fascination comes out, it's about a young woman who discovers that the pesticide being sprayed on the vineyard is turning people into killer zombies. And I guess the reason that I again scoffed earlier when we talked about, oh, this was shot in 2 weeks and it's a low budget effort, is because if you watch the trailer for this film, there's a ton of zombie makeup effects. Like basically everybody who touches these fucking grapes or eats them gets all kind of oatmeal faced. So I kind of thought we were going to get a bit more vampire action based on that. So if you're looking for his take on something that requires a bit more makeup, it might be worth seeking this one out.
Yeah, I wonder if it's less of a slower pace or less art housey than Fascination is too, because I did see it described as particularly gory as well. Right.
It definitely looked more conventional zombie film.
Got it.
Yeah.
So there's a second one?
Yes. Okay. So from the Redemption release, so this is the company that releases the disc of Fascination in America, there's a trailer for a 2006 film called Nature Morte, or it could be Nature Mort. And I would love you to tell me what this film is about. So this is not a Jean Rollin film, and it is not a French film. This is a UK film.
Is it evil? I mean, it's nature death. So it's like, Is it like a natural horror film where it's like plants are killing people?
No, it is not. Would you like to try a second guess?
The nature of death. So we're, I don't know. Animals are killing people.
Okay, so you fixated on the right thing, but you didn't take note of the language. So I said it's not a French film, but it does still have a French word in the title. So it involves an undercover French cop and an American art critic who travel to a mystical island to verify the source of a painting of a scene that only the infamous Marseille monster serial killer could have created. And the box art for this is very striking. It's like a woman in bondage who looks like she's being hostile torture style.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah. I gathered this one is nearly impossible to track down because I could barely even find the trailer for it. So I would be very curious to know if anyone has seen or heard of this. This looks a little bit more gory. So folks, this is a bit more like a Blue Underground kind of thing.
Okay. All of this very much out of my, I was going to say comfort zone, but it's not that I'm uncomfortable watching them. I don't know much about this.
It's out of your wheelhouse.
Wheelhouse. Thank you. Oh my God. Yes, that's the word.
Okay, well, you know what? Good on you for basically getting 2 of the 3 games correct.
Okay, yay!
Yay, you!
But, Joe, what happens in this movie?
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you.
For a limited time, you can get a free pocket pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just go to getcopperhead.com. That's getcopperhead.com for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Getcopperhead.com.
Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
Okay, so as you mentioned, we do open on, yes, our lovers sort of dancing on the causeway. But first, we have to get this other scene that I do think helps to establish not just the tone, but also the sort of dreamy, surreal-like nature of the film. So we have prayer and lots of candles, and then we watch as a woman's hands open and then caresses a large bound book, as if to say, okay, we're going to go into some kind of fairy tale, or we're going to tell you a story.
Yes, and so like the actual first shot of the film is of a portrait of some French dude, and then we pan down to this tome, and apparently this is kind of intentional on Rollin's part because he was heavily inspired by art and literature.
There we go. Yeah. And in a way, it also calls back to the fact that this is an adaptation of sorts, right?
Yes, exactly that. Although I kept waiting for that book to come back into play, and it never does.
It never does. No. There's a lot of things in this movie that feel like they are being teased, but not necessarily paid off. It's part of the reason that I said this movie likes to edge viewers. I don't think it's unsatisfying. It's just, again, if that's one of the things that you're like, ooh, that's going to come back, keep an eye out for it, like, you will probably be disappointed.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, again, when you hear, oh yeah, he pulls a lot from his own dreams, I'm like, okay, cool. So logic is out the window. We're going to be showing a lot of things that are there just because.
Yeah. You just got to go with it. It's part of the ride. Okay, so we are also hearing Philip de Ram's title track, Fascination, playing on the record player as our 2 women. So we have brunette Elizabeth, who is played by Franca May, and then we have blonde Eva, who, as you mentioned, is played by Bridget LaHaye, and they're both wearing these white, flowy dresses, and they're dancing to the phonograph.
Yeah, the score, by the way, I think is one of the standout parts of this film.
Agreed. I really liked it.
Yeah, and a lot of, I want to say theremin. I think it's also some synthesizer in here, and then the choral music. When we get like the long shots of the chateau, it's like this.
Yeah. I like the choral parts a lot.
Yeah, a lot. They're very ominous and spooky.
Yeah. So the other fun thing about this movie is that it is a period piece. So it's set in April of 1905. And this is where we open with the abattoir or the slaughterhouse, as you mentioned. So we see Helene, who is played by Fanny Magier, and she's there with a couple of other women. They look like they're in funeral garb, but I think they're also just high-ranking society ladies.
Yeah, because Helena is we will learn is the the Marchioness, which is the wife or widow of a marquis. I did a lot of looking into the stages of European nobility.
Oh, okay. I mean, it makes sense because part of me, we spend almost the entire movie in this castle, but we very clearly understand that Elizabeth and Eva are the servants, or at least they're masquerading as servants. But the castle is almost entirely empty because Helene is over doing this, drink ox blood to cure your anemia thing. And it feels like she's quite some distance away because it takes her almost a day to get back to the castle.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we watch her drink this ox blood, and we see in close up she's rubbing the blood around her lips, almost like she's applying a lipstick. And the butcher is laughing, and the women call this treatments, but you're just like, oh, you're enjoying this.
Also, I mean, obviously we're not really delving into this here, but isn't it actually harmful for you to drink blood? There's something with the iron in blood that actually causes a lot of problems for you.
I would think so. And yeah,
I do love the shot of the rubbing blood on the lips because, again, talk about the editing, it goes on for a very long time.
Yes, it does.
But I do love just the first shot we get of just Helena standing amidst all these ox carcasses.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit comfortable with the fact that, okay, those are definitely not fake. This was probably a real location that we were shooting in, but
entirely possible.
It's such a stark contrast, right? Because these women look very expensive. As I said, they look like society ladies, but then they're in the dregs of this sort of, low income butcher. And it's just very striking. I think that this movie is doing a gentle class critique with its thieves versus rich people and how they interact. And yeah, you can kind of feel that simmering tension about the rebellion or the revolution that you were mentioning in your description.
Yeah.
Okay, so we jump over to a group of apache, and this is a French term for Parisian gangsters or ruffians, and they're sitting in this, I think it's a barn. We don't really get a great sense of the location, but like they're surrounded by chopped logs of wood. So clearly this is, you know, again, kind of a place where you would expect to see servants or people who are like working for a property.
Now, Joe, tell me any of these people's names that's not Mark.
Okay, so yes, Mark will become our... I don't even want to call him our protagonist because I think Elizabeth and Eva are. He is like our anti-hero because he initiates a lot of the plot. He's played by Jean-Marie Lemaire, and he's the only one who gets a name, even though several of these other characters have important things to do. If you look at the IMDb page or even the final credits, they're all listed as like Apache 1 or, you know, Apache 3 or something. So it's wild that we don't care about these characters.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't give any of them names in my notes. I had like male thief, male thief, male thief without being able to distinguish between any of them. And the girl thief was thiefette in my notes.
Okay, great. We will use that to distinguish her moving forward. Yeah, the other apache that you need to know is the guy who has the kind of like goatee mustache, and the others don't matter.
Really matter. The Mark guy, though, he's giving me like Malcolm McDowell in A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, he's very striking. He's the one who immediately stands out, if only because his costuming is so bold. So he's dressed in a blood red and black striped blazer, as well as not quite a bowler hat, but not a bowler hat. And everybody else just kind of looks like they're, you know, dressed in peasant gear.
And let me tell you, you will be spending the entirety of this movie waiting for this character to get his.
Oh my god, he sucks.
He sucks. He's the worst. I mean, just absolutely obnoxious. But there is a lot of, I'm going to say, morbid humor in the film that comes from him just not getting of how much danger he's in.
Oh, I love it. I mean, one of the things that I think has aged so well about this movie, which, like, let's be clear, it's coming up on its 50th anniversary in a few. Like, this movie feels weirdly feminist because the women are in complete control. You talked about how the plot is sort of subversive in unexpected ways, but like, yeah, Mark is such a fucking clueless idiot. And he spends the entire movie like just bumbling into situations thinking he's in complete control. The women are always in control. Like every single interaction, the women are always in control.
And the thing is, they kind of drop the charade fairly early and he still doesn't seem to notice.
No, that's how dim bulb he is.
Yeah,
he's a fucking moron.
So I got a lot of laughs out of watching him, out of the dramatic irony here.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, could I have stood for him to have been killed earlier?
And worse, and way worse. Like he gets a nice death.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen him suffer.
And by nice, I mean like it's not like horrible. Like it's
no,
not painful.
It's not painful. It's not even ridiculous. He deserves something far worse.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so this group of people has gathered because they have pulled off some kind of heist. So they have a bunch of gold coins that they're talking about distributing. Mark, in his first sign of assholery, decides he's not going to share with these other people. So he ends up taking Thiefette, who is played by Miriam Watteau, hostage. So he says, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt her, but I am taking her as leverage. So he has plans to leave with her, and her boyfriend, the guy with the mustache goatee, who is played by Cyril Val, isn't worried because he assumes that Thiefette can handle herself.
Which she can, because one thing that women know in this movie is that men will do whatever as long as you show them your tits.
Yes, the default strategy for dealing with men, particularly in scenes with potential implied sexual violence, is to offer the sex first, which is one of the elements that has not aged as well or is not as feminist leaning. So yeah, like when in doubt, pull off your top. I'm not even going to push back on you that I'm just more so genuinely asking, but like, are women, like,
they're taking control of their sexuality and using that like for their advantage. So is that not feminist?
It kind of is, but it's always under duress of being sexually assaulted.
Yeah, that's true.
So here's the thing. I think the characters are feminist. I'm not sure about the film, or at least not all the time.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, well, it's also because, it's a male director, a male cinematographer. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a lot of lecherous male gazy style shots, but as I am about to remind everybody, if you like looking at the female form, if you enjoy watching women use their sexuality or be in power and owning that agency, this movie plays reasonably well. It's just, here's the thing. Going into it, I kept worrying that Mark is the kind of guy who is going to rape women, and I didn't want to see rape sequences. But what happens is the women always offer their bodies because they assume he's going to rape them, and then he never does because he's also shit.
But it never. Okay, I feel like I'm gonna get in the weeds with the rape here because it feels like anytime that they do have sex with people, they always actually they kind of instigate it, but they want it. It seems like
it's definitely implied as consensual throughout the film. Yeah, so we've got Thief being held at like knife point, and he says, "Don't worry, I'm not actually going to hurt you. We're just going to travel for like 2 days, and then I'm going to let you go." And she says, "How about you just fuck me?" And she takes off her top here. And it seems like Mark isn't interested in most women, so he just starts laughing at her. And then she uses this as an opportunity to like knee him in the balls and make a run for it. And this is a kind of sequence of events that will recur at least 2 more times.
Yeah, and he's a terrible shot because he keeps trying to shoot at her. She runs away and does not make it.
No, but he himself does get shot in the neck, or at least grazed in the neck, because the other apache have caught up with him. So he ends up running into the woods and coming across a nearby castle trace. So without knowing where he is, he just immediately enters this castle. It looks dark, so he assumes that it is unoccupied, but he decides that he's going to lay low there, even though these thieves have definitely tracked him. They know exactly where he is, but they themselves decide, we're just going to wait because it'll give him the false sense of security, and then we can just grab him when we want later.
Yeah, he'll just walk out and we'll shoot him then.
So I'm going to bring in one of 2 references for this episode. So I found a review called Fascination 1979 on a website called Read This to Be Clean. It's part of a editorial series called Into the Trash, written by Jeremiah. And Jeremiah writes, "This is a common thread in Jean Rollin's films. The criminal or streetwise cynic protagonist escapee, possibly representing naive realism or humanity, if you want to get into all that shit, stumbles into a mansion of metaphysical importance." So definitely some class stuff going on, but I gathered this is another kind of recurring character that you might see in a Rollin film.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so inside the castle, Mark discovers that it's not unoccupied. We actually have Eva and Elizabeth. They claim to be alone and that the rest of the servants will be arriving the following day. So he says, I don't want to deal with this shit. He locks them into the bedroom, and they use this as an excuse to begin making out.
Right away. I mean, when we first meet them, it seems like they are a little scared. Like they're kind of like, oh, but that, again, that facade is kind of dropped relatively quickly.
It's a ruse, yeah.
It really becomes clear that they're toying with him for the rest of the film.
Absolutely. And if you are still under the misguided belief that this is a vampire film, that makes even more sense, right? Because you think, oh, well, he's no danger to them because they can take care of themselves. And they can. It's just not in the same kind of way. Like, ironically enough, it feels like they immediately suss him out and realize this guy is an idiot and we don't have to be worried about him. Because even in this first scene, the reason that they begin making out is because they know they're not locked in because there's a second key in the fucking room. Right.
But okay, so because we will learn that the MO of this cult, though, is to lure men here so they can drink their blood. And so, but I'm interested to talk about some motives here because I think some of the motives between Eva and Elizabeth become murky in the second act.
Absolutely. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Okay, so he ends up discovering them making out because he comes to check on them, and they mock him. You know, they say, "We're virgins. If you don't kill us, you can rape us."
Rape us. Oh, like just, but this is all delivered like very jovially. Like they're like, "Oh, you can rape us. Like it's totally fine."
Yeah, and it almost seems like he gets that, like they're making fun of him because he doesn't rise to the occasion. Mm-hmm. He ultimately just leaves, so then they go back at it, and this is where we actually get a more full lesbian makeout scene. So we see some butts, we see some boobs, and I'm not gonna lie, I was not expecting to see women going down on each other in this film.
Yeah, no, I mean, and this is like less than 30 minutes into the movie, I think. So and again, it's not, I don't know, like this is the only real like lesbian sex scene that we will get in the movie. We have a lot of like, exchanges and kisses and things like that, but
yeah, this is it.
Yeah, this is the big scene, which I mean, you know what? Peak early, I guess, because everything else is straight sex.
It is indeed. I will say that this is more sort of titillating, like we're seeing more things than I expected to in this film, and I guess it makes sense given his background or where he's been making sort of blue movies before this, but like he shoots it in, I said lecherous earlier, like he very clearly admires and is turned on by women's bodies, and this looks appropriately erotic, but yeah, it is more graphic than I was expecting.
Yeah, I think that softcore is the phrase we want to use here, right? Like when you think of softcore porn, like this is what you think of. Like we're not getting like close-ups of like tongues on like vulva here, but like
no,
but we are getting like plenty of nudity, caressing, body contact, things like that. And this is what Rollin was more interested in than the hardcore stuff.
Yeah, and I kind of appreciate it. I like that we were seeing as much as we were, but that it wasn't graphic and tasteless. Like this feels like something that you might see in erotica.
Yeah,
like if you got like the Kama Sutra or something, it might look something like this.
Well, and obviously intimacy coordinators weren't a thing back here, but like because we're dealing with adult film actresses primarily, like this is like
they're comfortable.
None of this is simulated. This is all real.
Okay. Intimacy coordinators, not a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's surprised by Eva nibbling his neck because, of course, he didn't realize that they had a key. Even when he went to check on them, they were still in the room. And this is when the girls use the opportunity to retrieve hidden daggers. And they begin threatening him, and he begins threatening them because, he like uses a moment of distraction so that he can get his gun. So it's kind of like a high noon sort of shootout situation.
And of course, like for the obvious metaphor here, we're phallicizing these women as they pull out these daggers, and they are quite literally wagging them in his face.
Yes, and like they're also licking them and this kind of stuff. So it's very much, what this means. It's who's got the bigger penis.
Well, and this is when we'll get the line. Well, I think he leaves at this point. Maybe he's still there, but like they're like, oh, well, what are we gonna do? And I think Elizabeth says to Eva, well, you mentioned wanting to rape him.
Yes, we do. It's pretty wild. Okay, so the girls turn the seduction routine back on when he holds them at gunpoint, because obviously if you bring a dagger to a gunfight, you're probably going to lose. And this is when Eva doffs her dress. She takes him into the next room. And this is the first moment that genuinely confused me in terms of I thought that the plot was going to be important. I thought that characters were going to behave normally. And we have Elizabeth sort of hanging back as her sex partner takes this man into another room to presumably have sex with him, and she wistfully observes that it's a shame because she could have loved him.
So that's the thing. And I guess I was disappointed with this turn because I was like, oh, we're doing this thing where like one of them falls in love with the guy, and this asshole guy, and she wants to save him, and like then it makes her jealous of Eva, which is what leads to her killing her later in the film, and
it's immediate. Like they barely interacted with this dude, and all of a sudden we're talking about how we maybe or do love him, and it's just it feels too fast, too sudden, and not organic enough.
Yeah, Elizabeth is a character I find kind of confounding. But that being said, though, I think Franca May is actually the most charismatic performer in the movie. More so than Brigitte Lahaye for me.
I like both women, but it does feel like Elizabeth actually gets to play more emotions and like she's struggling with this, whereas Eva's just kind of, we never really get any insight into her, even though she does get the most exciting moments in the movie.
Agree. I mean, her holding that scythe is the film's most iconic image. But I think it's a thing where I kept thinking at this point that Elizabeth was still playing and toying with Mark. And so at a certain point you realize, oh no, she feels genuinely about this. And that's what I find very disappointing. But, maybe that's my 2025 mindset coming into this.
Yes and no. Okay, so I'm going to pull in my second reference, which is a writer named Simulacrum. That's a bit of a mouthful, but I kind of love it. Cinema and simulacrum. For a piece called Blood is the Life Which Flows in You, Fascination, 1979. And they write, even when the film appears as though it will be redemptive by portraying female characters in central roles of power, Rollin ultimately allows for what can only be described as hysteria to take control of their actions. And I think we can quibble with this a little bit, but I took note of the word hysteria because I think we have historically, not just in the movies, but in real life, often labeled women that we either don't understand or feel like they are behaving erratically or just bizarrely. We immediately label them hysteric. And I thought that this was an interesting read because if we say these women are so driven by the bloodlust that they know is coming, but also they're confronted with this man that they maybe didn't anticipate having to engage with, they are thrown akimbo, and as a result, they are behaving irrationally or hysterically in his presence.
Yeah, and that sucks.
It's not great, but I mean, who among us has not behaved a little bit oddly when we are suddenly confronted with someone we're either infatuated with or we think we maybe love?
Sure. And again, like, it's just a thing where it's like, this is kind of a movie about, well, not about sisterhood, but sisterhood plays a really, like, big part in the film. Yeah. And that it's this cliche, which maybe it wasn't cliche at this point, like, trope.
Shit dude comes in and ruins everything for this coven of women.
Exactly. Like, which I guess maybe, like, Rollin's like, I can't make a film of them just, like, toying with him until they kill him. And I'm kind of like, you can. I mean,
you can. We're going to see it a bunch in many other movies. Like, I'm not going to lie, Trace, the more contemporary movie that this made me think of, I'm going to need your help remembering the title, but it's the Eli Roth movie where he shows up at the girl's house and they just fuck around with him.
Oh, Knock Knock.
Knock Knock, which I think may be a remake of some other movie as well.
It is, yeah. I did not like Eli Roth's version of that. I thought it was very tonally all over the place, but that is similar.
I guess the issue that I think you and I maybe struggled with a little bit in terms of specifically this triad of main characters, and I wonder if our listeners will agree with us, is that I was just more interested in the relationship between Eva and Elizabeth, and I thought we all kind of were on the same page that Marcus is a shitty dude, and I wanted to see them play with him. I didn't want to see them develop feelings for him because he sucks, but also because I felt that they were better than that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's disappointing. Like, it's not just the movie, but the characters themselves are disappointing.
Yeah, like, girls, you're better than this. You don't need this shitty man. You don't need to do all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we get Eva, fucking Mark, by the fire. I did think it was an interesting choice considering the score is often quite in your face in this film.
Yeah.
No score here, just the sound of the fireplace. So we're really just focusing on the actors going through the mechanics of sex.
Mm-hmm.
So then Elizabeth slips in to fillet the gun, because we love to lick or stick a phallic object in our mouths in this movie. Mm-hmm. And then she fires it, presumably in jealousy. So Eva clarifies that she only slept with Mark to keep him in the castle until after dark. So
that's the thing, is like, it's like, okay, so Eva's still playing the game. Eva's only fucking him, so he's going to stay there. But then it's like, so Elizabeth's trying to get him to get away constantly.
Yes, because she likes him and she doesn't want him to go through with the ceremony.
Yeah, which again, we don't know what that is yet, but we can guess what that is.
Yeah. And to be honest, he would have left now because he realizes, bitches be crazy. I don't want to stay here. So he goes to leave because it's also like nearly dark at this point. But the ruffians have arrived and they pin him down with gunfire. So he cannot leave the castle at this moment.
Yeah, there's a big shootout, a big scuffle. And yeah.
So we start to drop these breadcrumbs, right? Like we know from particular pieces of dialogue that the servants are coming back the next day, but we're maybe trying to keep Mark here until after dark, but also that there are other people who are going to be arriving after dark, and that whatever happens, Mark cannot meet these individuals.
And this kind of, because at some point, because Elizabeth says to him, like, this is when she tells him, okay, like, you need to leave because Eva's trying to keep you here and I'm trying to keep you safe because I love you. But then she says at some point, like, oh, people are coming in 2 days. And I was like, wait, you just said 1 day. So now are you, again, are you like trying to like fuck with him again? But I don't think that's the case.
It could just be a bit of a script error.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
We're losing track of the timeline. But yeah, I mean, this is really a movie that takes place in the course of less than a single day. Mm-hmm. So I think you're just meant to understand that ultimately Elizabeth is looking out for Mark as much as she possibly can, but also she's not telling him anything. It's not like people are going to arrive. If they find you here, they will fucking kill you.
Yeah, right? You really love him, girl. Tell him the truth.
Right? Yeah. So this is going on, and Eva basically says, okay, well, I'm going to go and deal with the other problem. So as Elizabeth is like, I love you, but death is coming, and there's a seduction. You got to be wary of it. And Mark's like, I have no idea what you're saying because I'm fucking stupid. Eva, meanwhile, is like, let me go handle these idiots. So she goes out and she basically tells the thieves, look, I've got your money. Why don't we go to the stables? We'll get away from the house for a little bit. And as I mentioned, the default response is when pressed or when in danger, strip. So
yeah.
She starts to take off her clothes. This is, I'm going to say, tastefully shot because she is in shadow. So like you're kind of strained to catch glimpses of her body.
Joe.
And well, I mean, it's on display, so you're like, okay, are we going to get to see the goods here? Because
I'm just imagining you like squinting really hard to be like, where are the boobies?
Well, it's also like this is a gorgeous film, as I said, but it's not really well lit. So this is a dark stables, and I thought, how much am I meant to see? Should I hit the screen controls and try to brighten the screen a little bit?
Well, luckily, if you don't see it, we'll get plenty more later.
Truly, yes. So basically, we have left 2 of these ruffians at the gate. Like the people who don't have names, they have made 0 impression. They're just bodies on screen.
Yeah.
But we have Defette and her mustachioed boyfriend. So we're getting turned on because Eva is essentially nude at this point. Right. So we doff the top of Defette and we're grabbing the boobs. And then I thought we were going to get a menage a trois here.
I did too. I thought it was kind of a cop-out that we didn't get that.
100%. We're setting this up because it seems like Defette is interested in it. Obviously, mustachioed guy is like a pervert, so he calls himself Looney. Mm-hmm. But he sends her away so that he can fuck this woman who is very untrustworthy.
Because the idea is they're having Eva and Defette swap dresses so that Defette will go into the chateau and they will think that she is Eva and let her in.
Sure. These women are both blonde. That is where the similarities end.
There is a moment, though, so we do a cutaway to at some point here where we're back with Mark and Elizabeth. And he says, he asks her, like, who's coming here tonight? And she says death. But
okay, but she, like, breaks the fourth wall and says it directly to us, right?
I said, she almost, is she breaking the fourth wall here? Or is she not? Like, it feels very wink, wink, nudge, nudge in a way that,
yes.
Like, I thought that was a really interesting choice.
Yeah, it's bizarre because it's the only time in the film it happens, too. It's so striking. Yeah, I had it in my notes. I was going to circle back to it if we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, I had it in bold so I wouldn't forget, because I was like, is there a significance to this? Because again,
it's wild.
To me, this tells me, okay, cool, Elizabeth's more in on it than we think, and she's not actually falling under Mark's spell.
Right.
But she is.
Yeah, again, just a little disappointing. But, okay, let's go back to Eva and our mustachioed friend. So she strips him down so that we can lay down in the hay. Ugh, sex in the hay. It's just like...
Roll in the hay.
Here's the thing. I spent several years unintentionally raising rabbits when I was growing up because we had 2 and we were told that they were both female. They were not. We ended up with 48. And so we had to care for these motherfuckers, but like obviously my mom was not letting them in the house, so they lived outside in the cold Calgary winters. So I had to deal with a lot of hay, and that shit is scratchy. It is not comfortable. It is not like smooth and textured. So to lay down and have someone pump away at you, absolutely not. I mean, I'm glad that he's on the ground when she sticks him with the phallic dagger in the abdomen. But this would not have been an enjoyable sex scene.
No, not at all. And again, this is one of those ones that goes on for 8 minutes in the alternate cut. So
absolutely not.
And
no, thank you.
And this is kind of a boring sex scene, I think, too, because we're not. Mm-hmm. I feel like for the most part, the camera's almost always on the other side of the stable wall. Like we're kind of like looking through the slits in the grate.
Almost like, oh, it's a prison. He doesn't realize that she's trapped him, which I'm like, okay, it's fine. But yeah, it does go on a little bit too long. When she stabs him, he dies, and it takes way too long. And I'm not trying to shade Cyril Val, but this man's death pace is comedically over the top.
I think some of the acting in this film is questionable, with the exception of these 2 lead women. But yeah. And I guess too, like because of the way the camera's positioned, this felt like the most voyeuristic sex scene. Like this felt like we were the most like, oh, we're peeping on someone.
And it's sex for sex purposes, right? Like it's not telling us anything about the character except for the fact that she's weaponizing her sexuality.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is again fine. Like I'm happy to see a woman who says, I know that I can use my body to get what I need, especially in these sort of dire, violent circumstances. But like, I also don't know that I needed a full sex scene to get that across.
I mean, not one that was this long. But hey, you know what? It's okay. She might as well have just said, let me penetrate you now.
Exactly. So she takes her revenge. He did. And then...
Well, revenge? What revenge? for making her have sex with him?
I mean, revenge for interrupting her time that she could have been spending with Mark or maybe with Elizabeth.
I do think, I guess that was the other thing too, because again, we don't know at this point that they're not actual vampires. So I kept thinking, why are they killing these people now? Like, why aren't they like rounding them all up for the feast?
Yeah. I mean, are we wasteful vampires and we're not really, collecting the blood as we would expect to see?
Yeah, but also, I guess I didn't think that we were going to wipe out these thieves right now in like the span of a 2-minute like sequence.
Oh my gosh, it's so enjoyable. So enter the scythe in this film. We see these 2 guys. They're just kind of like playing cards. They do not care that, like, who knows how Thiefat just kind of like walked by them, went back to the castle. They're just hanging out, waiting for the sex act to be done. And I mean, it's pretty hilarious. Like, basically, we've got Eva coming out. She's put a robe back on.
Okay, but this robe, I mean, I'm thinking back to our conversation on A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, where I was like, I want this robe so bad. And this is not cultural appropriation, so I can wear this one.
100%, yeah. This is basically slits up both legs all the way to the hip, practically. So, like, we're basically covering the cooch and part of the butt, but it's all side butt. Super low-cut V, sheer fabric, so you can kind of see everything still. And she's got a giant scythe, like full size scythe. It's practically bigger than the actor. She just slits these guys' throats in one swoop.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's amazing.
And then we just get this again. So she starts walking up towards the chateau, and then we're walking across this bridge that the girls were dancing on at the beginning of the movie. And again, I didn't think we were going to kill Thiefat here, but like, again, we just get this wonderful shot, and it's LaHaye holding the scythe. The robe is blowing in the wind, so I think you actually might get some cooch shot here. I'm not really sure if I remember correctly, but like,
maybe
this is a stunning shot.
It's absolutely iconic, folks. Like, check out the social media post for this because we obviously used the poster for it, but it is one of those, like, you see it and you think, fuck, do I ever want to see this movie? Like, hot chick, half nude, wielding a giant phallic scythe.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
It's amazing. Yeah. And honestly, the rest of this scene is pretty impressive too, because it's like Thiefat with her little knife versus Eva with her giant scythe. I will say the end result is a little bit disappointing because it's like we're taking swipes at each other and, we're kind of trash talking a little bit. But there's this moment where Eva basically like kind of caresses her from behind, gets her with the scythe. And I have no fucking idea how Thiefette dies in this moment.
I didn't either. Like, there's not really, because again, we don't have the money for the makeup effects here, the gore effects, and so she just kind of like has blood. Did her tits pop out too at this point?
I think so. Like, when in doubt, tits out.
Yeah, did we? Yes, but nevertheless, she just keels over and dies.
Yeah, like she has cuts or blood dripping on her cheeks below her eyes. I thought, again, I wasn't sure if it was a transfer issue. I tried to figure out if maybe Eva had blinded her with the scythe, but it's not that. But yeah, she just collapses and is dead.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, we don't really get to see the scythe used in a lot of movies outside of like Children of the Corn, if even that. And so,
yeah,
I would love to see more scythe kills.
It's a great weapon. It looks very unwieldy. Like, I don't know how much power you could actually get out of it just because it would take so much core and arm strength, but it looks amazing on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that the sequence does end with the camera clearly in a boat on the moat, retreating on a kind of like dolly pullback sort of situation. So we just get this great medium to then long to extended shot of, Eva with the scythe and the dead body that she just murdered.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay, so the night has fallen, which means it's time for our Marchioness to return. So she and Mark exchange some barbed words because, of course, every woman that Mark interacts with, he thinks that he's smarter than. And as we previously stated, he's a fucking idiot. So she's dancing words around him. You know, we're laying it down thick. It's all about death and seduction. I did enjoy this moment where he basically insinuates or asks if she is a spiritualist. So he questions if she's going to rock the tables or call the spirits. I thought that was really interesting.
See, for me, again, this is like a funny line of dialogue. But, you know, like they basically say, "Oh, well, you know, this is a bunch of women here, and Mark, you're going to be the only man." Well, save for Satan himself.
Yes. And like she is so in control of him that she even basically treats him like a piece of property. So it's the line you mentioned off the top, you know, do you mind if I regard you as a horse? Like, show me your teeth. I want to see how much you're worth because I'm going to fucking slaughter you at midnight.
And this is one too where I thought the Marchioness would be a bit more of a main player in the back half of this movie. And she is more so than the other girls that show up. But this is still very much the Ava and the Elizabeth show. And again, for a lot of this last act, we kind of get, Elizabeth, like, should we question her motives, blah, blah, blah. But we say it, but we don't really do much with it.
No, it feels like a dropped plot thread or we're eagerly keeping an eye out for, but yeah, it never really turns into much, does it?
Or if the idea is, well, I mean, if she betrays us, we're just going to kill her anyway, because they have no problem eating Eva at the end of this movie.
This is true, and that was unexpected.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but wonder if this was a bit of a test for Ava and Elizabeth. Like, they say that they're servants. I don't actually ever know if we get confirmation. Like, are they women who are looking to join the society? Are they already members? Do they actually work for Helen?
No, I think they're part of the coven because this is, of course, at the very, very end of the film. But like before Elizabeth kills Mark, she tells him 2 girls come early to look for male prey for all of us to drink. And so, and she specifies when the servants return the day after the ceremony, so they're not servants. Like there will be servants there, but they pretend to be servants.
As servants. Okay, exactly. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, so Mark tries to kiss Helene, and she bites him, clarifying, "I'm only taken if I want to be," which is like, oh, this is a feminist film then. Clearly.
I mean, sometimes.
Sometimes, right? It's really back and forth, which
it really is.
I think makes it interesting but also challenging because it just seems to staunchly defy one way or the other, which I'm not sure if that always satisfies.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So then we get this thunderclap, the storm. This is the annual tradition commencing. So all of these women end up corralling Mark into a candle-filled room. He continues mocking this idea of death. He has no awareness. He has no ability to read the situation. Like, they're basically all threatening him, and he's just like, oh, what's going to happen at midnight?
They even tell him, I think this is the scene where they say, like, no one survives our secret ceremonies. And the idea here is that they're saying, okay, we're going to do all this stuff and you can pick one of the girls. And so I think he's just like, cool. Yeah, you're all basically like sex workers and I get to pick one of you to go fuck.
Yeah, because it never occurs to him that as a man, he could potentially be in danger in the company of women.
Yeah, which again, I love that.
Yeah, and it has proven wildly untrue several times in this film.
He's just not in front of his face.
It just does not compute for him. Okay, so we put on a record and everybody dances and kind of makes out, except that Mark doesn't like that he's not the center of attention. He's tired of not being let in on the secret. I think that's the other thing that is driving him, is that he's so curious about what is the ceremony, what happens at midnight. I need to know. Why won't you just tell me now? So he gets upset. He changes the record. It's a faster tune. He makes everybody dance faster. He's interrupting the partnerships and so on.
Right.
So this is when we blindfold him so that he can play blind man's bluff, which if you haven't seen the film, it kind of looks like a Marco Polo game where you've got to find somebody and then guess who it is that you grabbed.
So this is the game, random callback, but this is the game that Christina Ricci plays in Sleepy Hollow.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of fun, right? Because it tells us a little bit about how he reacts under pressure, but then also he grabs one of the women and he is so confident when he declares that it's Elizabeth. And it is not. And you can tell that this is like strike one, where she says, I may be falling in love with you, but now I'm kind of pissed off at you.
Yeah, because when do you think she decides to kill him? Do you think it's right before she kills him, or do you think it's earlier?
I think she's starting to get an inkling for it, and then there's the moment where she says, oh, never mind, fuck you.
Yeah, but this is a big betrayal to her, where she's like, how could you possibly think this was me?
Exactly. Yeah. So he does end up winning the game by identifying Helene. And so she says, like, you can have anything that you want. And he says, I want to be the boss of you for 15 minutes. But 15 minutes is all that he gets, because then it will be midnight, which means he will lose his power. So, Mark, I hope you enjoy your agency, because, baby, your clock is running out.
Okay, but and she's like, yeah, sure, whatever, dude. Like, hey, she's not worried. Because, again, when you realize, they're not vampires, then you're kind of like, oh, well, I guess, I'm saying this, what I was going to say was, well, if he wanted to rape one of them, he could, because they're not vampires. But then I'm saying, well, this woman can't take care of herself, when she clearly thinks that she can.
I mean, I think all of these women feel very fully in control of the situation. Like, no one seems threatened by Mark at all.
Ever, at any point.
He's a joke, right? He's all bluster.
But I guess maybe that's the subversion, though, where they reveal that they're not actual vampires, where it's like, oh, that actually is kind of feminist, though, because, like, oh, they don't need magic powers to feel in control of the situation. They just are, unless, to go back to your class reading, you're saying, well, because, though, they are high society, they feel like they're in control.
Yeah, because he is definitely coded as uneducated, and he's in over his head, even though he's obviously dressed the part. Like, he's ostentatious in the same way that they are when they're fully clothed. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like the message of the film is the aristocracy is actually the one who's in control, and the proletariat, if they think that they can compete, they're sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But I guess there's also revolt happening within the different factions of the people in power. So maybe that's the message.
Maybe.
I don't know. Folks, tell us if you read this differently. This is undercooked. Okay, so Ava worries that Elizabeth might betray them, which I think is pretty astute, and tells me that Ava is actually so firmly in love with Elizabeth.
And I think this is, because again, I think I just kept trying to think that Elizabeth was still messing with Mark, and this was the moment where I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing, because Ava's actually questioning this with the other girls.
Yeah, and Elizabeth says, no, I'm 100% going to go through with it. You don't have to worry about me. But the fact that we raised the question is worrying. So, like, this is meant to plant a seed of doubt in our minds. So the women all depart because they're going to get their costumes ready for the evening.
Their veils.
I fucking love this.
Oh, yeah. Because I don't even know if these are period specific, but they are so pretty. These translucent see-through veils.
Yeah, they're basically sheer nighties so that you can see all the tits all the time, but they're in different colors, which, again, if we knew more about who these other women were, I think it would be more impactful because it would help us to really distinguish them, because they're just kind of a sea of gorgeous women. But also it's like, they're interchangeable and they're all extremely hot.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is if we got, like, a longer cut of this movie, I would hope that the addition would be to flesh out some of these characters.
Yeah, it's tricky, as you said, because we still don't know that they're not vampires. Like, we know something is going to happen with blood and death at midnight, but we still think vampires. So in some ways, this is like a twist reveal that they're not actually supernatural. Right. So the movie can't tell us more about who they are, unless it was just like, oh, I'm also a widower, or I'm the countess of this other property, like, which I don't know if that would actually give us much more.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Anyway, okay, so we're watching Mark take control for 15 minutes. So he forces Helen to strip down to her undergarments. He wants her to kneel. He threatens to burn her breasts with a cigarette, and he thinks that this is hilarious and it's so much fun for him, and she does not flinch.
Yeah, she might as well be like looking at her watch, tapping her toes on the ground, like, all 100%. Right, 15 minutes.
She's waiting, like, if this is what you want to use your time for, I hope it's worth it, you dumb motherfucker. So then time is up because it's nearly midnight. All the women return. They're in their fantabulous outfits. And this is when Helen gives Mark one last chance. So she says, if you want to leave, you can. I'll even give you my horse. You can go to the stable and you can get it. So he does.
Why does she do this, though? Like, why does she give him this opportunity?
Well, this is why I wondered if this is part of the test.
Well, unless she knew he was going to find Thifet's corpse, which is exactly what happens.
Which it is, yeah. So he finds her. He, I think, now suddenly realizes, oh, I have misunderstood the situation. There is a dead body here. I was not anticipating that. So, yeah, this is when he decides, okay, I'm going to leave because I'm not safe here.
Oh, he's like, I don't want to know your secret anymore. Like, okay, dude. Like,
sure you don't, motherfucker. So we go to the stables, and this is when Elizabeth shoots Ava. And it's because Ava was going to harm Mark. So Elizabeth does this to protect the man. So she shoots her lover. I hate it.
I hate this so much. And I think it's obviously, yes, the trope. But just also because Mark is such an asshole. Like, there's nothing about Mark that makes me believe that Elizabeth, what little I know about her, would actually like fall in love with this guy so quickly. No. I wish that would be my one fix of the movie, is to change Mark in a way to make him not like, and honestly maybe add like a bit of tragedy to his death, but there's no, his death is cathartic.
I don't want more to him. If anything, I maybe need a bit between him and Elizabeth so that we can see him treating her kindly. Like, I don't know. I don't understand the attraction.
I agree. I wish there was something that would help me understand. So, but again, like, what would make you understand her attraction? Would it be, how do we get more inside her head to where we know that this thing is attractive to her? Whereas I think the easier way is to make him not an asshole.
But I don't like that, because I like that he is just an unapologetic asshole.
Yeah, because I guess if he's not an asshole, then he does become the protagonist.
He becomes the hero.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the other reason that this moment hits hard is because, like, we don't want to see bad things happen to Eva, but also because she genuinely looks bewildered. Like, she talks about how Elizabeth was hers and that she loved her, and then she kind of crawls away, and I'm saying pathetic not because I think the character's actions are pathetic, but it's just because this formidable woman who didn't deserve this fate has been reduced to this.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny. You say didn't deserve this fate when, like, this is quite literally a cult of murderers. But
but I wanted to see the murder happen to the man.
No, for sure. Yeah, this is actually the tragedy of the climax of the film.
100%.
Not Mark's death.
No.
So actually, if Mark's death was somehow tragic, then it would rob from Eva's death.
Yeah, because this does feel like the climax of the film, even though I think we're meant to feel something when Mark dies. I don't know.
I have questions. I don't think so.
Anyway, so Elizabeth marvels, look how the blood attracts them, because the other women have immediately exited the castle. They take one look at Eva, and As Elizabeth and Mark flee, we watch as these women just descend on Eva and they bite her. And I did think this was an interesting framing decision, blocking decision. The women seem to go primarily for the crotch.
Yes. That does not seem unintentional.
No.
I mean, we don't really have any more lesbian sex scenes in this movie. Although I guess this is the lesbian sex scene.
This is the sex scene.
This is a lesbian orgy. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the culmination of what the ceremony would have been. It's just that we have substituted out Mark. We have put Ava in his place. But yeah, like these women basically just go to town on this woman and it kills her. I was trying to think like, okay, so what are we saying with this? Where they go for the crotch instead of, even just spreading themselves out around her body. Like they are fighting for positions.
Oh, actually, I think that's something you could say, though, is that women cannibalize each other. But again, because none of them really cared about the man. So, I don't know. But
it's like, I think it has something to do with, like, the potency, right? Like, where does the woman's power lie? And if we have repeatedly seen women use their sexuality to gain power, to gain agency, to gain control, maybe this does make sense that they go for Ava's power center, which is her crotch.
Important to know, though, that Helena does not partake in this. She just watches them all do it.
Yeah, it's a bit inscrutable. You can't really tell if she is upset or surprised by this development. But yeah, she gets invited, like, hey, we'll clear a spot for you. But she definitely does not partake.
Not at all. Now, and here's the thing, though. So we will move next to Elizabeth killing Mark. And this is my issue, though. So what happens between her shooting Eva and then her shooting Mark that makes her decide to shoot Mark?
Yes, it's a problem.
Unless, and again, I don't get this from the performance of the film, but like, unless she is so mortified by what she has done to Eva that she blames Mark for it.
I think so, because, so after the women have basically killed Eva, they retire to the rooms because they say, like, the sun will be up soon. They just leave the body there, but we do have Helene say, well, I think Elizabeth will come back. And then we cut to her and Mark, and they're in this kind of like open, tall building with like a bunch of staircases and so on. And yeah, it feels like just enough time has passed for Elizabeth to realize, I just killed the person I actually love for this man I know very little about, who clearly barely knows me because he guessed wrong during the game. And it's like, do I want this? Like, I also love that Mark has definitely reverted back to stupid dum-dum territory because he says, well, you love me. In a way, he's looking for reassurance that she will not do to him as she just did her other lover. And she says, well, I loved Eva, and you saw what I just did to her.
Yeah.
And that's when she shoots him.
Well, because her exact line is, I did love you, but remember, you rejected me. I loved Eva, and I killed her. And then she says, the blood cult is strange, bizarre. So then it's also kind of like, okay, so are you having some kind of like traumatic experience from the blood cult, and you're just like kind of fucked in the head now?
Or like a crisis of conscience. I think part of it is that she's realized I can't throw away this cult or this bond with the other women because this is my life now, right? Like whether you want to say, oh, she's got that anemia and she's got to feed it with blood somehow. She can't just give that up and go run away with Mark. Or she says, I'm not abandoning my sisters for this dumb piece of shit. You know what? Easier to put him down now.
Yeah.
And that's what she does. I love that there's no build up to this. There's no him pleading for his life. She just kind of says, oh yeah, you're not safe. And then she just shoots him.
God.
It's kind of great. Like, would I love to see his body pinwheel off of a cliff and just explode at the bottom of a canyon or something? Or like he falls into the moat and there's a shark in there magically because there are sharks in France, as we know from Under Paris.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this guy deserves something bigger, grander, more bombastic because I wanted to see his body get just brutalized.
No, yeah, and this is it because there's like maybe a minute left of this movie, and that's the other thing. So Helene comes up, and they just kind of make good, and
yeah, it's a little bit of kiss and make up.
Yeah, but again, like is she not going to have any repercussions for killing? Well, I guess not, because the other girls drank her blood, so it's like whatever. But
yeah, like you kind of started the process, but you didn't do it. Oh, also, just to circle back, sorry, not to put
no, go ahead.
too fine a point in it, but I think the other reason that Elizabeth does this is because Mark said that he was shocked by the dreadful behavior of these mad women. So I think it's like, oh, that's the final kicker. You still don't even understand who I actually am. And you think I would have to be mad to do this. Like, it's, I think, a realization that he just has no clue who she actually is as a person.
Do we?
I mean, more so than him, for sure.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He's a dum-dum for this entire movie.
Yeah, I think it would have helped. I don't know that we did this in the late 70s, especially with like a villain, but it would have been nice to have had her give a little bit of a monologue before shooting him, or even like standing over his dying body and saying, you know, you may call us mad, but these are my sisters, or this is why I do the things that I do. Like, I don't need an explanation because I don't understand it, but it would have helped to maybe just solidify her motivations a little.
No, for sure. But the problem is the explanation she gives is just what they're doing. It's the twist of the movie that they're not vampires, and it's not. But it's not on a personal basis. It's just like, hey, this is what's been going on the whole time. But my actual like interior monologue life, like you're not privy to that, including the audience.
Yeah. And maybe in some ways I kind of like that because Mark isn't owed an explanation before he dies.
Well, I guess that then by extension, are we?
I mean, we don't because we don't get it. So so this is basically the end of the movie. The suggestion is that we will continue to do this when we need the blood sacrifice, and it will probably go back to just being a regular old man. Hopefully we won't, consume our own, but it does seem like all is forgiven and Elizabeth will be welcomed back, at least by Helene.
Yeah, and I guess, again, I mean, logic isn't a thing here. Again, very surreal, dreamlike kind of film with not really a narrative. Like logic isn't a thing. But I guess the thing where I'm kind of like, okay, well, she can always say that Mark killed Eva.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, no one was there. So, yeah.
And that's Fascination.
That is Fascination. Yeah, not a movie I can say I ever would have sought out on my own. So I'm glad, once again, glad we have this podcast to push me into these areas. But Fascination is fascinating.
Yeah, it's a curious little oddity. Hopefully folks will check it out. These are typically the kinds of episodes that don't perform particularly well because it's not a well-known title. It's a foreign film. It's an older film. That's kind of like the trifecta of, it's like the killer for a lot of folks. But if you're in the mood for something that's just a little bit dreamy and interesting, and maybe you haven't dipped your toes into the Rollin waters, this is not a bad entry, I gotta say.
I mean, apparently it might be the best entry.
Well, I mean, we've got several other vampire lesbo texts that we could try out in the future just to compare.
But actually, though, if any of y'all are like Rollin heads out there and you do have things that you're like, oh no, like, you should watch this, like Grapes of Death or something, like let us know. I'm actually kind of curious because I might see something like that out.
Yeah. My concern is that because he's not plot and character driven, is that we might just see variations of this in other texts that we might watch. So I don't know how much more fodder that gives us in terms of unpacking it. So yeah, if you have one that's kind of like, oh, it's sort of doing the same thing, but it would give us something unique to talk about, I would also appreciate a recommendation there.
I guess we'd have to always use Fascination then as a reference point.
Right. Yeah.
Well, okay, everyone. Just some quick housekeeping before we announce what we're covering next week. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us on Blue Sky and Instagram at HorrorQueers. Shoot us an email at horrorqueers@gmail.com. Find us on Letterboxd to keep track of all the films we've covered. If you want to chat with other listeners, please join our HorrorQueers Discord. The link is in the show notes. If you have a moment, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you want even more content, please support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/horrorqueers. If you subscribe today, you will get 400 hours, the magic 400 hours
there it is.
of Patreon content, including this month's new episodes on Squid Game Season 3, Dangerous Animals, Megan 2.0, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and a brand new audio commentary on Species for its 30th anniversary. And even though we're not dropping new content on the Requel tier right now, you can still listen to episode-by-episode recaps of The Last of Us Season 2. But Joe,
Mm-hmm.
what are we talking about next week? You said we're going into 1982?
Yes, we are. Yeah, so we've jumped from 75 to 79 to now 1982, so we're into the 80s. And Trace, I have a feeling a bunch of people will be like, finally, how have you not covered it? This is kind of a seminal piece, even though you could say it's more of an Ovester piece.
An ovenal piece.
Ovenal piece, yes. We are talking about a quintessential female written and directed slasher, The Slumber Party Massacre.
Yeah. Have you seen this before?
Oh, God, yeah.
I like it. I don't love it, but I'm looking forward to revisiting it.
Here's the thing. This is one of those, the production informs a lot of the final results. So if you have issues with the film, I do think that your production history will help to straighten or queer up some of those issues. But yeah, I think it also helps to remember that this film is funny. Like,
yeah, it is.
Have to sort of treat it as a bit of a like weirdly funny slasher film.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll unpack it next week.
Eat that cold pizza. But until next week, everybody, we can cross out Fascination.
Indeed, and cross out horror queers.
The Bone King. He watches over everything.
Check out The Trouble with Tessa, starting July 15th, only on Screambox.